course, as many of you know, I like to ask questions. I like when we ask good questions. So I'm going to actually ask you all a question. I'm going to need some help with this one. And this question is, have you prayed for anything lately? I mean, have you prayed for something? For a specific thing? Whether that be a physical thing or a specific something. Has anyone prayed for something lately? For something to happen? Or for a specific something in their life that they'd like to share? Anyone? Suzanne?
I prayed for rain.
For rain?
Mm-hmm.
We all pray for rain, actually. We just did an Arkibu Road blessing as well. Anyone else?
Pray for a couple things, that Marlo's safe in Israel while she's there, and that my kitchen remodel goes well.
Good.
Without any boo-boos, that is all.
Good. So for the health and safety of your daughter, and for something very pretty concrete, or tile, if you will. Anyone else like to share? Many of you know the story of the guy who prayed to win the lottery. Right? You've heard this one, I think, many of you probably. He wanted to win the lottery. He had lots of bills to pay. He was in debt from school. He wanted to win the lottery, and he prayed every night. He prayed, "Dear God, please let me win the lottery." And he would pray every night, and every week he would not win the lottery. And eventually, God answered his prayer and told him, "Ralph, you gotta buy a ticket." Right, you've heard that one? I take from that story something really unique about prayer, which is that we can pray for any number of things, but at the end of the day, if we don't do what we can to help make that prayer come true, if we don't take our action that helps bring that prayer into reality, then there's no chance for that prayer to come into reality. I'm thinking about that this week because we see in our Torah portion this week what I would argue is the first prayer in the Torah. Yes, I know it's already chapter 24 of Genesis. You might think there's been plenty of prayers. And okay, well, Noah, he sacrificed after the flood. He sacrificed to God. So that was, in some sense, a form of worship, yes. We've seen a lot of that. But we haven't seen prayers. We haven't seen actually calling out to God and asking for something. That petitionary element of prayer, which we know is part of our tradition for thousands of years, we haven't seen until now. And who of all people asks this prayer? Says this prayer? Someone who's not even Jewish. Abraham's servant, who we know his name is Eliezer, not from this scene that we're going to hear in a few moments. We know his name is Eliezer from 9 chapters earlier. You had to have been reading really carefully if you wanted to know his name here in chapter 24, because the only time he's mentioned by name is in chapter 15. So here it's just an anonymous servant, which in some sense actually, I think, emphasizes the importance of this prayer even more. It's preserved even in anonymity because it's perhaps the first prayer to God. And what does Abraham's servant pray for? Well, Abraham, as you might remember, is old. He's dying. He's just lost his wife, Sarah, after 127 years of her life. And he's worried about the future. He's worried about his son having someone to continue his line, to continue his blessing, to continue this covenant that he has started with God. So he sends his servant to the land of his birth to find for his son a wife. And once his servant gets there, his servant realizes, I don't know who I'm looking for. And so he prays. And he says, God, let me find a wife. And you'll hear the details of exactly what he says and exactly how he says it. And he sets out a condition. He says, if the woman who comes to offer me water and also offers my camels water, if the first woman who says that, that'll be the one. And then miraculously, who comes along but Rebecca comes along. But even still, Eliezer, our unnamed servant in this passage, he doesn't know that God has answered his prayer. The girl comes along. She offers to water his camels and him, which is pretty nice. Camels drink a lot of water. And yet, we hear the narration of the Torah tell us, V'ha'ish mishta'ela macharish ledat ha'hatzliach Adonai darko imlo. Has God made his mission successful or not? So we see this amazing story. He prays for something. He prays for something extremely specific. God supposedly gives him something pretty specific, a woman who does exactly what he had hoped that someone would do. And yet, he still doesn't know. He still isn't sure. It takes him a little bit longer to act in such a way that gets him to realizing that he can fulfill his own prayer. And so, tonight, my hope for all of us is that when we pray for things, whether they be concrete things, whether they be more abstract things like healing, tonight I hope that we remember that we have the power to start working towards our prayers before they are fulfilled. Our story here of Eliezer teaches us that. And it's interesting also, I think, because we call God Shomea Tefillah. God is the one who hears our prayers. Shomea, who listens. God doesn't necessarily grant us everything we pray for. But God is there to listen. And so perhaps our job in praying is to help ourselves understand how we go about getting what it is that we're praying for. We might pray for knowledge, for instance, or wisdom. But what we're really praying for is the strength to know that we can go out and seek that wisdom. We might pray for healing, but what we're really praying for is the ability to go and be that healing presence in our own lives and in the lives of those we love. So just like Eliezer and his prayer that we read in our Torah, I hope that we, too, will not have to question whether our prayers have been answered. I hope that we'll buy our lottery tickets, so to speak, and that we'll know that we have the power to help answer our own prayers, even as much as praying them still is a way for us to connect with our Shomea Tefillah.